watching TFI.
Greetings and salutations! Welcome to TFI. My name is Neil Cross, and we are about to embark upon a basic Fusion 360 modeling tutorial for the Xbox Series X because it's as basic as it gets. So it's going to be a basic tutorial. It's aimed at anybody who's like, I'm learning Fusion 360 or another CAD package inventor, whatever. And I just need some things to follow along to get my skills leveled up. That's basically what it's for. It's not for experts. It's not for people who already know what they're doing and want some extra tips and tricks. It's not for anyone that wants to manufacture this, obviously. We don't really know the internals of the Xbox 360. We don't even know what ports are on the back of it. So we're just going to basically model up the outline shape of it, this weird funky top kind of grill that's going on with the LED inside it. Then we'll create a render as per what was the thumbnail for this video. So that's the aim. It's nothing too fancy. There's not any really high-end stuff going on in this. It's just for anyone who's just wanting to level up and a bit of extra practice as you're learning Fusion 360, mate. So if you go to the link of the video, there'll be a link to my Dropbox with a couple of files in there. There'll be a picture of the Xbox logo and then a Fusion 360 controller, which I've nicked from GrabCAD. I should probably link the guy who made that in the description, so I'll do that just to save my backside. So download those and then go over to Fusion 360. We're going to create a new project. You don't have to do this, but you know, it just keeps it away from everything else that you're doing. So we're going to call this Xbox Series X. And then I think that's all we need to do right now. And yeah, we're good to go. Okie dokie, mate. Right, so I'm going to shut down that panel and let's get started. So I'm not using any fancy 3D mice, nothing like that. I'm just using the keyboard, normal mouse. That's it, really. Nothing else going on here. And let's just get cracking, mate. We're going to create a sketch and then we'll drop that on this plane here, which is going to be the XY plane. Drop your sketch on that. Jump on over to the create panel. We're going to go for a center rectangle, snap that onto the middle, and then we're going to do 150, tab 150, and then press return. So this is roughly, based on the pictures that we've been given, is roughly the size of the Xbox Series X. It's roughly the width of an Xbox controller, which is about 150 millimeters. And then we can press F4, hold down the left mouse button, just do an orbit, get to about here, finish that sketch, and then we're going to do an extrude. So there's a number of different ways you can extrude in Fusion 360. You can click that button, or you can just click the profile, right click, and go into an extrude. And then you can just type in 300, which is the length of the extrusion that we're going to go for. Make sure that's set to new body, which it should be by default. Click OK, mate, and that's it. We're done. Thank you very much, mate. There's the Xbox Series X. Thank you for... I'm joking. It's not far off, though, is it, really? I mean, it is just a cuboid, isn't it? I mean, there's a few bits and pieces extra that we need to do anyway. Right, so that's the basic shape of the Xbox Series X done. And we're going to create that grill thing at the top. So we're going to jump into, there's a number of different ways you can do this. Different people with different skill levels will try this in different ways, but this is the way I think I would do it. We're going to jump into a form. So click create form on the top, and then we're going to jump into plane. Select that, and then click the top face of the cube. And then you should get this little cursor thing, like a little glyph following your cursor. Which means that you're on the right track. For the rectangle type, change this over to 2 point, and then just click any 2 points, opposite diagonal points on the top face, and then that's it, really. Make sure it's divided 2 by 2. If you can't see these edges, I'll just make sure that's all fine. It is, yes. Click OK. If you can't see the edges, what you want to do is go to the display settings, visual style, and mine's flown off the bottom of the screen there. But you want shaded with visible edges only. You might have just shaded on, which means that you can't see the edges and it gets difficult to see things in Fusion, especially with a white background. So I've got shaded with visible edges only. All right, once that's done, we're going to go into, is it create or is it modify? I think it's modify, and we're going to thicken that by, let's make it 10 millimeters. And then OK on that. So that gives us a nice thick form for us to work with. And then to create that kind of dip in the grill, so this thing here. So there was a number of different ways I tried doing this before I settled on this. The first way was a lofting down to a point, but you end up with sort of hard edges where the corners sort of loft down to the point. So I thought this is the best way to go, and that is to go into Edit Form, select the middle vertice, this one here, give that a click, and then click the arrow pointing up, just left click that once, and then in the Z distance go for a -10, and then just press return. And what that does is it grabs, just zoom in here, it grabs that point and then it just pulls it down by 10 millimeters, and then all the surrounding geometry, all the surrounding faces and edges, they sort of dip down as it's getting dragged, and then you end up with this sort of dipped surface, which is pretty much exactly what that grill is. And we can finish that, we're done. And then if you're thinking, but it doesn't look dipped, it doesn't look like it's actually done anything, well, you can test that, you can check that it's done something. Go into inspect, and then we can go in for the section analysis, click the side face, and then just grab, and then as you pull along you can see it is actually dipping. It's quite clearly got a dip there, and it's 10 millimeters down from the top. Alright, escape. And then I think what we'll do now, what shall we do now? Right, we'll combine. So what it's done is created two bodies. So if you expand your browser, you see you've got body 1, which is the first extrusion, and body 2 is that top form thicken that we've just made. But we don't really want two bodies there, it's all one. So we can go into modify and then combine, and we'll just combine these two together and then click OK, and it just converts the both of them into one body, which we can rename here. We can just call this Xbox body, I guess. Right. When that's done, you can see we've got this joint here. Now, it doesn't matter, right? This joint here, you can see it's got a face here and then a face here with a joint there. It's a nothing joint. You know, if you were to 3D print this, nothing would come of this. It's just two faces that are separated, but it's still one body. But it does my head in. I don't like it, so we can get rid of this. So make sure nothing's selected. Just left click in the white space. Go into modify, delete, and then just delete these faces here. Just make sure you don't accidentally click anything else other than these faces. Orbit around. Give all 4 of those a click, make sure they're all blue. Should have 4 entities selected, and then just click OK, and then it'll heal the faces up past where that joint was, and we've still got that dip at the top. In fact, if you give that face a click and then just look at its side on, you can see the dip there. So we're all good. We are all good. Alright then, once that's done, we need to shell out the Xbox to give us a hollow center. So we're going to go into modify, shell, and then select the Xbox body. And then inside thickness, we're going to make this 5mm. I have no idea. I mean, I assume it's just going to be a couple of mil thick, the plastic that they're going to manufacture the Xbox out of. But we're not modeling any internals, so this bit doesn't actually matter. So we'll just make it 5mm and then click OK. And then that's hollowed it out. Again, if you're thinking, well, I've done something, but I can't visibly see that anything's actually changed, and I need to see that for verification that what I've done has actually worked. That's how my brain works. Again, just go back into the section analysis, click on that face, and then drag it across. And you can see now I've got a 5mm wall thickness there, and it's essentially scooped everything out the middle and left us with a 5mm shell. And then that's it's worked. Right. So we're going to create the grill on the top now, so we can go into an offset plane, expand the origin folder, click the XY plane, and then drag this up, and it's going to create a construction plane, let's say 350mm above from the floor. Press return, create sketch on that construction plane. The reason we're doing this is because you can't sketch on a curved face. I'm creating the circles for the grill. You can't draw circles on a curved surface. I mean, you kind of can, but not in the way that we need to do it. So we need to create this sort of construction plane floating above, so we can draw these circles out. All right, once that's done, just zoom in a little bit, and then we can select P for Papa on the keyboard, and then select this face, and then press OK. And what that does is it projects the edges of the cube onto this sketch, so we can just reference it for dimensions. Draw a circle, center diameter, roughly just anywhere here, doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be exact, and then we'll make this 10mm in diameter, which is again roughly the size of the circles on top of the Xbox. Going for a general dimension or a sketch dimension, select the center of the circle and then the edge of the cube. That's pretty much bang on that, mate. 10, yep, it wants to be 10, and then again center to this edge here, and then I must have grid turned on, make that 10. I must have grid snap turned on. The snap to grid is turned on. Right, I'm going to turn that off because I hate it. It really does make it. I hate snap to grid. It sort of removes an element of flexibility and freedom when you're drawing stuff. But you can leave that on if you want, but I've just turned that off. All right, so that's the first circle drawn out. We'll finish that sketch, and then I think we'll cut this whole through. There's a number of different, with CAD and modeling, there's so many ways of approaching something. There's never really a right way. There's usually a best practice way, but there's never a right way of doing something. As long as the end model works and is accurate, it tends to not matter that much how you got there, unless you're sharing your designs with other people in an office, or if you're sending your models out to other people. Then it kind of matters how you put something together, because they need to know how to work on it and make sense of what you've done. But when it's just you, it doesn't matter. Right? Extrude, and then pick this circle profile, and then we'll extrude down. Just make sure it cuts through that 5mm top face. So we'll go -70, and then OK. And then we'll do a fillet on that edge for a 0.25. It's just a very minor fillet, and then OK on that. So if we jump back over, in fact it's so minor you can barely see it, but there will be a rounded off edge there. They're not going to be razor sharp edges. So, all right, then we're going to jump into create a pattern of the rectangular variety, and then change the pattern type to features. Select you can pick it in the window here, but it's sometimes easier to pick it in the tree down at the bottom of the timeline. So we're going to pattern the extrusion and the fillet, and the directions we're going to pattern in the, telling Fusion 360 which direction to pattern something in, you can either pick model edges or you can pick axes. It's safer to pick axes because edges can change, whereas axes are pretty, set in stone. So we can pick the x-axis, and then for the distance type is going to be extent. Quantity, so I've counted them, there's 12 holes in the grid, and they're spaced over about 130mm. And then for direction 2, we're going to go for the same. We're going to go for 12 with the distance again 130. If it does that, if it patterns the other way like that, that's fine. Just go -130 and it'll just flip them over. So that's fine. Click OK. It'll take a couple of seconds. Fusion will start kicking off, going, oh, there's too many patterns. It's not that many patterns. Come on, get a grip. This is to be dramatic. Too many patterns. It's a pretty simple grid. Anyway, there you go, mate. There's your. That looks pretty good, though, doesn't it? That looks awesome. So there's your. You can see right through it. It is a bit unfortunate that we're not doing anything inside, but then that would sort of, if we were to start modeling internals, it would be a far cry from a basic tutorial if we were to be doing that. All right. So once that's done, we can now create the DVD tray. I suppose it's a console. I was going to ask a question about that as a DVD. You know who uses optical media? Well, I guess console users do. So we'll get that put in. So jumping back over to the picture, it's a very simple slot feature, and there's a little button. I suppose that's going to be the eject button for the DVD right above it. So we're not creating circuitry behind it. We're just basically modeling out a representation of this. So do excuse the primitive nature of what I'm doing here, but it is just for beginners to follow along. So, yeah. Neil, I'm a beginner. Stop waffling. Can you just do it? Okay. Sketch on this face. Again, it can be any of the 4 faces. It doesn't really matter which one. And then we can zoom in a little bit further, just so we're not too far out. Go to create a slot of the center-to-center slot variety, and then draw this anywhere. Just click, pull down, make sure this line snaps onto the vertical like that, and then click, pull away, click. That's it. It doesn't have to be exact. We'll confirm it up with dimensions right now. Press escape, back into a sketch dimension, select this edge, pull away, and we'll make this 170. It's roughly the size of a DVD slot. And then click these 2 lines here, and we'll make these 7.5. And then, so that's the size of the slot done. We'll just need to make sure it's positioned. Again, I have no idea where this is exactly on the front of the Xbox, but select the center of the arc at the bottom, and then the bottom edge here. And we'll make this 20. And then center line to the edge. I don't know, 15? I don't know. There, I suppose. Finish that. And then, yeah, that looks about right, doesn't it? I mean, if we just jump back over, sort of going just about 20 mil from the bottom, sort of just about below half height. Okay, maybe mine's just about above half height. Does it? All right, we'll shorten it down. So we'll double back into that sketch, double click into there, edit that, and we'll make this 100 okay, 155. Right, finish that. Sure. All right, that'll do. Right, so we're going to jump into an extrude, and then we're going to cut through that way by 5 mil, because that's how thick the plastic is. So we're going to give it a nice slot cut. And there, I mean, that's not going to look okay. I mean, that's not acceptable for a DVD slot, really, because you can see the inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to model a case, like a shell, for where the DVD drive would be. So do another sketch on the front. P on the keyboard to project, and then we can project all 4 entities of the slot, like that. Okay. Finish that sketch, and then we can extrude that new profile that way by -100, and then we'll make sure this operation is going to give us a new body, because we want this DVD tray to be a separate physical body inside the model. Okay on that, and then if you just turn off the Xbox body, that's what it's given us. Alright, so we need to shell it out and make it hollow, so modify shell, click that face, and then we'll inside thickness of, I don't know, 1 mil. Okay on that, and then once that's done, we can combine that and then that, and then that gives us a kind of sort of a representation sort of a DVD tray. It's not brilliant, but I mean, when it's rendered, it looks almost exactly like the Microsoft image. Right, sketch on this face. We're going to create the ejector button. So zoom in a little bit further. P on the keyboard, project this top arc. Okay on that. Draw a circle around about here. Again, it doesn't matter for the size right now. And vertical constraint between the center of the circle and the arc. Sketch dimension on the circle. I don't know what, 6.5-ish, I think, possibly. Yes, that's fine. And then a dimension from the center of the circle to the center of the arc, about, I don't know, ooh, no, it's way too close. Edit on that, make that 10. Yeah, it's fine. Right, finish that sketch and orbit around. I don't like, this is just me, but when you're looking straight down on a face, I don't like doing extrusions because they're heading away from you and you can't see depth. So I prefer, every time I do an extrusion in any video I've ever done, I always orbit around like this, just so you're looking at it from an angle, which means when you do an extrude, you can see the depth of the extrusion. And it just, you know, if you're looking straight down on that face, you wouldn't be able to see that depth. All right, so the distance, well, this is just an indentation for a button, so we'll just go -2, cut through the plastic. We'll do another sketch on that inside face there, and then project that. Again, P on the keyboard, project that, circle, snap to the middle. So the button was 6.5 in diameter, so we'll make this just 6. Finish that sketch, and then extrude this button up out like this by 2.2. Yeah, so it's just sort of, no, a bit further. 2.5. There you are. So it's just sort of poking out a little bit. You can make this a new body if you want the button to be a new body. You would do that if you want the button to be a different texture to the case, but sure, okay. We'll make this the eject button, because you never know. You know, you might want the eject button to be a slightly different texture if you are creating like a proper image that you're going to render out with great detail. Then that gives you that. Oh, one thing I have forgot is the bottom of the Xbox has got like a little stand, which is very difficult to see on almost every single one of these, but you can just about make it out there. In fact, you can't. I can. I don't know if it'll be clear on the camera. No, I can't see it. But yeah, it's like a little, what looks like a circular stand at the bottom of the Xbox. So we'll just create a mock-up of that. So sketch on the bottom face, circle, middle, pull away, and we'll make this around 100 in diameter. Finish that. Extrude that circle. Let's just call it 5 mil. something like that. We'll make this a new body as well, because this could be, well, it probably is a separate manufactured piece to the main body. And we'll call this the bottom stand. Sure, bottom stand. There we are. Right. Yeah, roughly about the right size, isn't it? I guess so. All right. So on the right-hand side of the Xbox, again, very difficult to see on all of these shots, but there's a USB port, which I'm not going to model up a USB port because, let's face it, even if you were Microsoft and you're doing the actual original CAD model for this, Microsoft don't make USB ports, they buy them in. So what we're going to do is jump on over to the manufacturing catalog that Fusion 360 has. It's like a standard parts library. So go to insert a manufacturer part, and that should load up your browser. You're going to need to create an account for this, but it's all you might be able to log in with your Fusion account. I don't know if you have to make a separate. It's been that long since I did this, but you have to log in. Once you've logged in and created an account, go into search and just type in USB and press return, and that'll bring back all 3D models and parts that are of the USB varieties, anything that's tagged with USB, and then we can go for I don't know, this one here possibly. You get a little preview of it. Yeah, that'll do. And that looks like a good USB port to me. And then select this button here to Autodesk Fusion 360, and then it'll compile the model. Select this open end launcher thing if you're using Chrome. I don't know what it'll do in Edge or Internet Explorer. It just puts it in. I was quite impressed when that happened the first time. I was like, oh, Christ, that's pretty good actually. It's orbit around, just manipulated by grabbing the arrows, and then zoom in a little bit, and then look at that, man. That's awesome. Look how much work that saved you. Even if you were to just model a mock-up of a USB port, it would still take you bloody ages. Right, let's rotate this around by 90. So around about there, and then rotate it in that direction by about 90, and then I mean, I should be constraining this in place, but I don't need to. So what I can do is just look side on and then just snap this sort of roughly there. And if you zoom in, that's kind of flush with the plastic. That's all I really need for the purpose of this. All we're really doing is a render at the end of this also. It doesn't need to be exact. But if you want to jump into joints, you can join it in place. Is that roughly? That's probably ish whereabouts it's going to go. Well, okay on that. Alright, but you can see there's a bit of a glaring error here. There needs to be a cutout in the front of the plastic case. So we can do that. We can sketch on the front of this face, select capture position, and then we can go for P, project geometry, and we'll project that arc, that one, and then that one, and then okay. And we can draw a 2-point rectangle about so big, and then just use the vertical and horizontal constraints to just line everything up like this. There to there, and then there to there, and then finish that sketch. Extrude. Yeah, come on, you can pick everything up, come on. All these corners and that one there, I thought I'd picked him up. And then cut that way by -5, and then for the objects to cut, you want to make sure you untick the USB bodies so you're only cutting through the Xbox body. And then there you go, there's your USB port, mate. Looking absolutely pretty realistic, to be fair. Like, that looks awesome. Right, the last thing is, I've noticed on one of the marketing shots is that there's like a little turny knob above that. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's volume control or I don't know what it is, but there is like a little turny plastic knob, so we'll get that modeled up. So again, circle about here. We'll make this 6.5 as well. In terms of its position, constrain it to, is there a point we can snap on? Yeah, about there, that'll do. And then dimension, sketch dimension. That's D on the keyboard for short, and then we'll make that 7.5. Sure. All right. Extrude this turny knob by. Oh God! Oops. Right. Escape that. I accidentally clicked the bigger face there instead of the arrow. Right. We'll pull out. We'll make this 4 mil thick. We'll make it a new body, and then we'll call this. I don't know, turny button. I don't know what it does. I assume it Can it be? It won't be a volume button. Volume will be controlled by the external device. I don't know what this will do. But never mind, it's not important. Right, sketch on that face, on the front of the button. And then we can project P on the keyboard, project that circular edge through. We can do create a rectangle, center rectangle, and just touch that, right, the center, track up like this until you hit there. And then we'll create so this is going to be like the little ridges in the button, one by one. That'll do. Return on that. Finish that sketch. Extrude both of those profiles, -1, and then we'll create a circular pattern. Make sure you change that over to features, axis, the center line of the button, and we'll create 25. That's probably too many, just 20 of them. Okay. That was too many of them as well. 15. That should be fine, shouldn't it? There we go. There's a turny button. There we go, mate. There we go. That's it, almost done. So there's 1 or 2 things left to do. There's a little LED which shines through the top. I don't know what it is. It's probably just that's entirely what it is. It's probably just a light. I don't know how they've got it so big. But I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it is. I don't know. So we're going to have to just be very approximate with that as long as it works. So we're going to go for a construction offset plane we'll go from the XY. Grab that, pull it up, and then we'll probably want it to be around about 280 up. And then sketch on that construction plane. No, it's not going to let us. Yeah, we can pick it in the browser, can't we? There we go. We'll just make a disc. We'll just draw a disc. So a circle from the center to about 65 mil. Finish that sketch. Extrude that disc by 5 mil. And then we'll rename this to be LED disc. As I don't know what it is, but it's there and it exists. Now we're going to assign that a material which is going to emit light when it comes to rendering it. Right, finally we're going to go into, well, it's not really quite finally, nearly. Sketch on the front of the Xbox, and then we're going to insert a decal, and then you want to go insert from my computer and then browse to the files you downloaded from my Dropbox, and you should see the Xbox badge. Pick that, select that face, and then brings it in a little bit bigger than it needs to be. I mean, that doesn't actually look that bad, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't have hated that. But you want to grab this little corner, little glyph, grab that, and then just scale it down till you're happy with it, mate. I mean, we don't know how big this image is either, so we can pull that along to about there, move that up to about there. And sure, I mean, sure. Okay on that. And then there's the Xbox button done. And that really, oh no, there's fillets. Thinking, oh, we're done. No, fillets. So jump into the fillet command. And then we can pick these edges here, the uprights on all 4 corners. And then on the top, that edge, that edge, that edge, and then that edge. And then we should probably do these ones at the bottom as well. And then that one, and then that one, and we'll just give them all the same, I guess, 0.5. Okay, on that, it's looking pretty good, that, isn't it? It's looking pretty good. And then finally, you want to go open, browse to the Xbox controller, download from my Dropbox, open that up, save it into the project we made at the start. Give that a save. And then once that's saved, open up your panel, jump into the project. We can hop on over to this, and then you can drag the controller into the scene. I've got a feeling we might need to save this first, though. I'm not sure if you can play something without it being saved. Can you? Yeah, please save the DX, so you do have to save it. So we'll save off. I should have saved it anyway, really. So we'll call this the Xbox Series X. And then drag that in. There we go, mate. Right, so now we can just pull this around, flip it around by, I don't know, 150 degrees, rotated by, which axis is going to be the rotation? It's going to be this one here. Sort of rotate it around a little bit so it looks like it's sort of leaning against the Xbox. Sure. So it's hovering below ground as well, so we don't want that. We want it to be about there. There we go. I mean, that'll do. It looks like it's floating in space, but to be honest, I've seen ridiculouser ridiculouser. So I've seen stupider. Oh, come on, Neil. I've checked out of work. Basically, it's the last week before Christmas. I have checked out of work and life, to be honest. So my vocabulary is suffering. Right. Anyway, okay on that. And yeah, that's pretty good. Right. So we're going to assign a couple of textures to the main Xbox now. So we're going to modify. If you want to, you can assign it a physical if you assign it a physical material, then you can start getting weights and stuff like that and doing simulations on it, which we're not going to do. But we should really anyway put a proper material on it, because that's what you would do in reality. Plastic. So we'll give this ABS plastic, drag that onto we'll drag it onto the bodies in the browser so we can separate things out. So drag it onto Xbox body. And then right click on the glyph at the top and then go to edit and then go into advanced. And then for the appearance, we can change the color over to black, because that's indeed what it is. For the relief pattern, if you want to be clever with the texture, obviously the Xbox isn't going to be a perfect smooth plastic. I'm saying obviously, I assume it's got some kind of plastic grain, like a indentation in the plastic. If you've no idea how to do that, it's not that difficult really. You can go into the relief pattern, give that a tick, and browse to your C drive, go to Programs, x86, Common Files, Autodesk Shared, Materials, Textures, and you might see a 1, 2, 3, 4. It depends what else you've got installed on your system. I'm not sure if Fusion 360 installs these, but these are the material libraries that most of Autodesk software installs, like AutoCAD, Revit, Inventor. They all put these material libraries on, and they contain a bunch of kind of JPEG and PNG images. I think they're all PNG. Yeah, no, some of them are JPEG. But these are all tiled images that you can use for textures, and some of them are like a plasticky grain, and we can use those a plastic coarse bump, and we can use these for the texture on the plastic. So give the tile a click, and then we can change the depth. So 25mm depth is obviously ridiculous. We'll change that to 0.4. Just zoom in, and then when you zoom right in, you can see exactly what it's going to do. It looks very unrealistic in this mode because we're in modeling mode. We're not in the rendering environment, so the textures and the materials do look very unrealistic. But change this down to 15. That's still a bit big, isn't it? I mean, you can play with this until you're happy, but I'm kind of in a hurry, so I don't want to waste loads of time on this. So we'll just we'll leave it at that. But that's the ABS plastic done on the Xbox. I guess we can use the same just for the purposes of being quick on the eject button. We can do the same on the bottom stand. The turny button is going to be plastic as well. I mean, you can, yeah, do you know what I mean? I mean, it's not the most important thing in the world. Right, for the LED though, we do need to make this an emissive green material, so we can go into Fusion does have an emissive material type, but I don't like it. So we're going to go into let's go into, where's paints at? I don't know where paints are. I think that appears when we jump into the rendering environment. So let's do that then. Let's do that. Let's go into the design button, change this over to render, and that now changes everything, and we're now in render mode. So if we hop on over to appearance up at the top, I think we will get a different set of libraries here that we can use. Yeah, see, we've got paint there now. Go into glossy, and we can change. We can select paint green. So it's obviously a green LED. So grab the green glossy paint and then drag that onto the disk. It's probably better to drag it onto the node in the browser so you don't accidentally drag it onto something else. Right click on the glyph at the top, edit that, go into advanced, and then for emissivity, you can change the luminance to, let's make this 3000. Press return, and then change the color to a green. Make it a little bit darker. And then OK on that. And that should now shine through. All right, close that. Go into the second button, which is Scene Settings. Change the, and go into Environment Library, and then grab Photo Booth, and then with the left mouse button, just drag that off into the scene, and that should set the environment to Photo Booth. Go back into Settings, then change the background to the environment, and then that gives us the Photo Booth background. But it's all topsy-turvy at the moment because Fusion's got the ground level confused. So select the front face of the cube here, right? Whichever way your Xbox is facing, select the equivalent face, all right? Right-click on that face, and then set that as front. And then that just magically fixes every problem you would have had if you didn't do that. You would have had a world of pain if you didn't do that. Right, brightness, we can just crank this up a little bit. Yeah, to taste. Do you know what I mean? To whatever you're happy with. Is the ground at the right level below the standard is? Okay. Let's change the camera to about there. Yeah, I'm happy with that, mate. I'm happy with that. Right, close that. Go into, is there anything else we need to change here? Scene settings, we've just done that. Don't need to do anything with decals. Go into render settings, make sure the performance options are set to advanced and resolution is at 100. Okay on that. And then, mate, we can now render it. So to do that, let's shut down the panel on the left. All right, let's get rid of that. And then we'll just select in canvas render. And then, mate, there you go. There's a gorgeous looking Xbox. I mean, we can't see the green LED shining through, so I should probably fix that. Right, stop the render. Let's orbit this around so we can see the top. I just want to make sure that that luminance that we set is bright enough. Yeah, it is. You just couldn't see it from the angle that we had it set at. But there's the green LED shining through. I possibly made it a little bit too low down, but that's looking awesome. I'm well chuffed with that. It's a brilliant rendering engine, Fusion 360. It's absolutely stunning. So we've got quite a lot of grain in the plastic. That's because I set that bump map on it, but you can change the texture to whatever you want it to be. If you don't like the grainy effect on the plastic, just go to the appearances in the rendering environment. We can jump on over to plastic. Okay, there's no black plastics in there. That's a shame. Metallic black paint, sure. I'll remove that and then render. So that should be a smooth metallic black now. It's still going to be grainy because that's just how ray tracing works. Is that set everything as black? I think I might have set everything as black. Why did it do that? Right, Control Z, undo. Jump back into appearances. Let's jump back into metallic black, but just drag that onto the Xbox body. Right, that should leave everything else as it was in canvas render. There we go. There we go. And yeah, like I said, it's still grainy, but that's the nature of ray tracing. There's noise in the image until it shoots enough light around the scene, bounces rays around everywhere, clears up all the noise, and then you get your final image. And you can experiment with this as much as you want. You can go back into scene settings, change the perspective on the camera if you don't like the kind of orthographic nature of this. It is a perspective image, but it's quite orthographic. There's not a lot of fisheye going on with this lens, but there you go, mate. That's it. That's the Xbox 360. That's the Xbox Series X modeled in Fusion 360 at a very basic level. I mean, it was half an hour worth of modeling, but without me talking, it's honestly about 10 minutes. Yeah, if you learn in Fusion 360, possibly picked up a couple of tips and tricks along the way, got yourself a nice picture there, you can make modifications to it, send it out to Microsoft, say, hey, I can do a better job than you lot, here's some suggestions to make it a bit better before you release it. I don't know, create some renders, troll your mates. Thank you very much for following along. Not many people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. It's the nature of the business. People tend to find them, watch them, and then move on, but it would be much obliged if you do subscribe. If you want to see more stuff like this, you'll not know about it unless you subscribe and hit that little bell button. If you're interested in buying Fusion 360, I do have affiliate links down below. You can click those to take yourself over to the Autodesk store and check out the rest of the videos. I've got generative design tutorials. I've got all kinds of stuff, modeling alloy wheels and tires and stuff like that. All kinds of stuff, mate. Where you been? I've been doing this for 6 years, mate. Anyway, thank you anyway for finding me, watching, following along. I've been Neil. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one.